Hello from Southern Ontario, Canada, June 12th. A little more on flail mowers just because my day's wrapping up and there's some interest on the channel about them. They're often used on golf courses because they leave an incredibly level, smooth, really tidy looking cut. None of that rowing business that the rotary mowers leave. They can also be used as a bush hog to some extent, depending on the size of the rotary mower and the machine propelling it. They can cut some pretty good diameter stuff. Of course, this takes the edges off your knives. But furthermore, and they're not designed to do this, but you can cheat the height on them and take them down where the flails, they hang on chains on a rotary drum that runs across the flail mower. So the chains in the knives flail. You can actually scalp down and pulverize and destroy all the grass and weeds on top. Leave it for a day or two, so then when you come and rototill your garden, all that stuff doesn't wind up around your rototiller. All the grass and the weeds and the stems and stuff. Again, this takes the edge off the knives. So we had a 6-foot one here, a Mott's flail mower, before they turned it into a truck parking lot, and there was actually 14 acres of field, and we had gardens and all kinds of stuff. So this is how I came to know them. Now, they're not cheap, and you have to have your machine's horsepower balanced to the size. You know, is it 4 feet wide? Again, they're not cheap. Again, you see them on golf courses where they keep the knives sharp and don't do the stupid abusive stuff I'm talking about. You often see them on the arm of a big tractor doing the ditches. Now, that's a really expensive piece of equipment because it has the articulating arm. You don't just pull it behind you on the PTO. And you're going to need a 80-100 horsepower tractor at the very least. But they are an incredibly versatile piece of equipment, and because it will do more than just cut grass, you might want to consider, if you bought, you know, a smaller one for I don't know, let's say the price of a big riding lawnmower, you've got a piece of equipment that is going to outlive that riding lawnmower by decades. And again, it can be used as a bush hog, and it can be abused as a, well, I'll call it a scalper, for lack of a better term. Now, I don't know about all the other manufacturers. The one we had here wasn't mine, and it was a Mott's flail mower. I think Mott's, M-O-T-T-S, made a lot of, you know, this type of equipment, box blades, rototillers, snow blowers, and stuff. And the fellow who owned it, I said, well, that one bearing is running hot, and I would suggest a very limited length of use on it, and you should consider getting a bearing. Well, it turned out the Mott's bearings are proprietary. They can't be sourced from anywhere else, or at least a decade ago they couldn't. I mean, we searched high and low because each bearing, and, oh, there's my point. There's one there. They were over $200 each over a decade ago. And again, they are proprietary. You can't get them, or you couldn't then anyways. So anyways, the fellow who owned it came around the front of the house one day and he's yelling at me, is this louder than it seems to be usually? Because they are loud, the chains and the flails and the drums spinning around. It's like, yeah, it is. The bearing had gone. He was mechanically deaf. He drove it till the point where the bearing was destroyed and the shaft was chewing into the side structure of the mower body, and it was on fire. Yeah. So he'd already procured the bearings before he now destroyed it, because the drum is the main part of the machine. was worth more than the used mower was. Which is how I happen to own a set of brand new Mott's bearings. If anybody has a Mott's mower that needs them, like, cheap, what am I going to do with them? They don't fit anything else. But they are a versatile piece of equipment. And I got talking about them in the sense of clearing underbrush in the bush. I don't really think there'd be a better piece of equipment to do that with. I mean, a rotary mower, even a bush hog, is not going to do what the flail mower will. In the whole concept is that the chains are flexible. If it hits a rock or something it can't ingest, it's not going to break the way even a bush hog would, and a conventional rotary mower absolutely would. You don't want to use those as a bush hog, although you can use a bush hog as a finishing mower. So I think that summates what I was going to say. I think I had something else in mind, but it eludes me now. Yeah. I can't imagine anything better to grub out a bush with than a flail mower, even though that, well, they do make other pieces of equipment for that. But you need a big tractor, it goes in the front, and it costs even more money. So, anyways, end of ramble.